Hello and welcome to Skills to Pay the Bills and today's segment of JustAskFreeman.com. I'm your host, Freeman Owen Jr., and with me is my co-host and lovely wife, Carolyn Owen. We are the owners of Financial Sources, Inc., our firm and agency. We're licensed in the states of Maryland, Virginia, and of course, D.C. And what we do is to make sure that you're informed and educated about how to safeguard your retirement from losses. Carolyn, we've got an interesting show today. We've got some interesting topics, but I just want to take a minute to give a shout out, or I should say give props to the producers of our show,
yes.
Skills to Pay the Bills, Miss Lisa Clark and Tia Young. But anyway, let's get back down here. Let's get down to business here. What are we going to cover today?
Freeman, as always, we have very interesting topics to cover. We're going to talk about overcoming retirement challenges. Then we're going to talk about retirement risks to consider. And then we're going to compare Social Security benefits with those who get the benefits early as opposed to later.
All right.
And then we're going to also talk about Social Security benefits and IRA distributions, how to time that.
All right. Well,
and we'll have more if there's time permits.
I love it. I think this will be very informative. Stay with us for the next half an hour, folks. We're going to cover these topics for you. Carol, let's begin with some of the retirement challenges. What do you think?
Okay, well, Freeman, you know, there was a survey done in 2013 with people ages 50 to 70 who had at least $100,000 or more in investable assets. Now, at least 90% reported at least one major loss or setback of missed opportunity of about $117,000. They did another survey of younger people between 31 and 51, I believe, for 32 and 51.
Right.
Now, they showed gains in their retirement accounts during the 2007 to 2009 period.
Exactly.
So what gives that freedom? You got older people who are talking about big losses, younger people who got gains, and what happens with, or how do you survive the market downturn?
Well, you know, the future is always uncertain. As the saying goes, life happens. It's wise to prepare for unexpected events, but what you should do is react logically rather than emotionally. And so what happened is that with these retirement challenges, you have to overcome these obstacles. And I want to cover a few of these, some of the items pertaining to this topic.
Okay.
Alrighty. Well, one, I want to give you a little feedback on some of the areas that is very, very challenging for many of our retirees, and especially those who are preparing for retirement. One such challenge is saving too little or too late. Alrighty. I want to table that just for 1 minute and just go back to surviving the downturns. You know, more than half of those surveyed that you indicated here suffered severe market losses during the Great Recession. And we have seen a number of folks that come to us, to our practice, who have not recovered from the market downturn from the early 2000s, 2001, 2002. Now, you mentioned the 32 to 51-year-olders.
Yes.
All right. Now, they may not have or did not have as much as far as investable assets as those boomers, say 55, 65 on up. So therefore, they started at the bottom of the recession. And during its recovery between 2007 and 2009, they might have received some gains as they continued their saving throughout the downturn. And so therefore, that helped them benefit from the market when it started to improve. Now, I always look at the fact that just like yesterday and last week, there was a substantial downturn in the market, and there's market fluctuation. That's market risk. And of course, we also mention all the time longevity risk, outliving your resources. That's a major concern. About 87% of those who are retired are concerned about the fact that they may run out of money. Saving too little, alrighty, not saving enough money. You know, the rule of thumb, Carol, is that at 25, you should be able to save 15% of your income. Now, the percentage will increase significantly When you turn 30, 35, you should have, or should be able to save approximately 30 to 35% of your income. When you hit 45, you should be able to save 64% of your income. Now, I know you're thinking, well, I don't know what you're thinking, but to put it this way.
That sounds like an awful lot to come up.
All right, but you're looking at the progression in the percentage that you should save. And some of our viewers might say, well, 64%, that's terribly unrealistic. Well, I say that you should start to save something, and increasing your savings is better than no savings whatsoever. Also, you can maximize your retirement contributions. For example, you can take your employer responsible, what they call
Retirement
those?
plans?
Retirement plans. Your IRAs. You could have, or you can, there are provisions for catch-up. Now you take the 401k or the TSP or the 403b, these qualified plans. This year you can put up to $17,500 into those plans. Now, that helps you with salary reduction, the tax deferred, and then if you're 50 plus, you can get an IRA at $5,500 and $1,000 in the catch-up provision. So therefore, you could put $23,500 into your savings.
Okay, well, Freeman, now let's say your savings is on target. You've really been saving, really doing well.
Yes.
And as you say, sometimes life happens. You experience a traumatic event. You go through a divorce, death of a lost one, you lose your job. Yeah. You have unexpected medical expenses. What do you do then?
Well, you know what we do for our clients, and we share this info. We design a budget, and we emphasize having a savings account to at least cover anywhere between 3 to 6 months of living expenses. Now, I'm talking about basics, not theater tickets, tickets to the game, or going out to brunch once a week. No. We're talking about basic living expenses, being able to pay your mortgage, your auto note, your utilities. I put a lot of emphasis on having an emergency savings account, and it covers at least those expenses that you have during that period, 3 to 6 months, and puts you in a better position too. Here's something else you always hear me say too, that we share with our viewers, is that you don't use your qualified accounts as an ATM machine. Because when you take the distribution from a qualified plan, such as a 401k, the TSP or the 403b or the IRA, this is ordinary income and it's taxed as so. If you're under 59 and a half, tack on another 10% in retirement, I should say, income tax penalty of 10% for those who are under the age of 59 and a half. Something else I want to look at too is, which is a very challenging time during your retirement or even pre-retirement.
Talking about college and
retirement.
And, well, you know, and what does happen that because you got the two priorities competing. You have your child going to college. You don't want them to come out with a trail of debt. Then you have your own retirement to consider. And I read a survey that said 15% of people just stop saving for their retirement at all and just focus on the education.
Yeah, exactly. We did a show, both on radio and here at Skills to Pay the Bills on justaskfreeman.com, where we talked about the debt of the average college student, running anywhere between $100,000 to $200,000, and the liability on parents and grandparents who dipped into their life savings, into their retirement accounts, and subsidized the children or grandchildren. Now, this is a true story. When I was a college student, sophomore in college, I was in an economics class, and the professor brought up the fact that he said, one day you're going to retire. Now, what? A 19-year-old, you're not thinking about retirement.
No, you haven't started working.
All right. I didn't even have a job. That's kind of funny when I look back at it. But the thing is, he says, well, you save for your retirement, but if you aren't careful when you're retirement age, your children or your grandchildren can derail or either, put it this way, drain your nest egg. Well, that's apropos today. I don't particularly personally advocate you taking monies from your retirement dollars, your savings, and subsidizing a college education. All right? Because I just mentioned some of the reasons why we did a blog and we talked about, is college really worthwhile? When our kids get out of school, they have a substantial amount of debt. Can they purchase a home? Can they marry, take care of a family? And I personally had a couple of young people come to my office this week. They're in their late 30s and owe $80,000 and $100,000 worth of debt. So if you're retired, it is very difficult to replace that money. And like you always say, I've heard you say this, there's more time behind you than in front of you. Now, there are proprietary grants and there are scholarships available that will aid kids to run their tenure through their college years, to manage that. So it's not a good idea to compete. You have to take care of you, and you have to have your savings to protect yourself against longevity risk.
Okay, and Freeman, our next topic focuses on retirement risks to consider, such as inflation, unexpected events, Social Security, and sequencing. Now, each one of these is very important, but how do you, and it has its own challenges and its own potential solutions, but how do you address them properly?
Okay, now I'm going to address that question and answer that question for you, but first, it's time for a short station break. Folks, we'll be right back after these special announcements, and please stay with us. We'll be right back. Well, welcome back. You're watching Skills to Pay the Bills in today's segment of JustAskFreeman.com. You know, Carolyn, right before the break, we were discussing some of the challenges that you faced during retirement, yes. And you were going to elaborate a little bit more on some of the retirement risks to consider, yes. During your retirement journey. And then I wanted to just add a little bit more to with this college. I don't want people to think that education is not important, but I must emphasize we've seen the number of folks who have depleted their resources to subsidize the children and grandchildren's college tuition and their debt. See, as most importantly is the debt involved, the $100,000 or the $200,000, and you'll see a grandparent say, well, I'll take $50,000 from my retirement account, and that impacts the longevity risk. They could run out of money.
Yes, because right. I think what you're saying is that if you can afford to do both, that's great. That's fine. But you have to take care of your own retirement.
Exactly.
Okay.
All right.
And then I was asking about retirement risk to consider. I mentioned some retirement risk are inflation, as I said, mm-hmm. and unexpected events, Social Security, right. and sequencing. Mm-hmm. And you were going to elaborate more about that, about solutions.
All right. You know, the road to a comfortable retirement is full of risk. They don't stop or end when you stop working.
So I found out.
And we've seen the cycle. We've seen recessions. We've seen market meltdowns. We've seen market corrections, the sequester, government shutdowns. All right, we've seen all that. But the amazing thing is that was going on when you're working. That cycle, a series of events will occur when you retire. So you have to consider longevity risk as well as outliving your retirement assets. And there are some risks that are worth considering and that we should elaborate and talk about today. All right. One is inflation. Now, inflation has been about 2.25% over the last 5 years. All righty. However, it's still, that inflation percentage impacts your spending. All righty. It impacts the spending, whereas it eats into the purchasing power of your savings. Now, over the last 30 years, inflation has been about 2.85%. So this long-term inflation trend has been higher, and the suggestion is you may want to tilt your portfolio toward a more conservative type of instrument to offset. You can go to our website, justaskfreeman.com, and we have white papers, blogs, everything there, lots of content and references such that you can get instruments without risk to your nest egg and outpace inflation. Unexpected events, well, you had mentioned it early in the show, Carolyn, about the derailers.
Yes.
Alrighty. And the cost, just about $117,000. Setbacks can be mitigated by simply maintaining an emergency fund. I always say that. So when you have that unexpected event, when you need tires, your car breaks down, there's maintenance in the home, the kids might need something. When I say kids, adult children or your grandchildren might need monies. What I recommend, once your life is back to normal, start saving again. It's short work for us. Yes. You're retired now, comfortably, yes. All right. So there have been unexpected events, and you resume saving at the highest rate that you can afford when your life returns back to normal. Something else I want to mention too is Social Security. There's an archaic, retirement model, yeah. the three-legged stool, and I say it's archaic, which is kind of wobbly. You had your pension, Social Security, and of course your own resources, your savings. Now, today, I remember back in 1985, 89% of the companies in the U.S. offered a pension. And with the advent of the IRA back in 75, we could see more and more of a trend as pensions start to disappear up to present, where there's about 12 to 13% of the companies offer a pension, if you're lucky to have one. So can you really depend on a pension? Now, we look at Social Security. Now, as according to the 2013 annual report of the Board of Trustees, the benefits could be fully funded to current levels only up until 2033.
What happens after that?
Well, if it's exhausted, the beneficiaries receive 77% of their distribution from the Social Security program. Payroll taxes will have to fund, like I said, about 77% of scheduled benefits. And of course, that depends on your age. And you might need to scale back your expectations of Social Security. I would say that you cannot depend on Social Security as a major source of income. And really, you can't depend on a pension as a major source. You have to depend on what? Your own resources. And this comes to mind when it comes to one of the most complex challenges is
sequencing
yes. Risk, which is the timing of unfavorable portfolio results, and also withdrawal strategy mistakes. Some people take too much from their savings too soon. And I always say it's hard to navigate through your retirement journey without professional help. You need a professional. And we've seen, and our job and what we do is help clients who are very concerned about outliving their resources. And then what we do is help them avoid costly mistakes during their retirement journey. And that's what we do. And you can go to our website and get a free Safe Money kit at justaskfreeman.com. Now, with the dramatic market downturn during the Great Recession, we've seen with retirees, it brought into focus what was happening to the nest egg. And I mentioned, just like yesterday, the market dropped, then last week twice. The ups and downs and the fluctuations in market risk and losses. We have to look at how we allocate our resources, such that it avoids some of the market risk, the fees involved, and the fluctuation. Like if you have $100,000 and there was a 20% downturn in the market, you've lost $20,000. That's $80,000. And so you have to start back from the bottom. And then once you start back from the bottom, which might take you 15 to 20 years to recover that $20,000, suppose you're 65. By the time you hit 85, and then the market dropped that day on your birthday. All righty, that's not a funny thing,
but it can happen.
It can happen. And along the way, from 65 to 80, 85, you had all the fluctuation, the fees and so on those assets along the way. And so it's very, very important, the sequencing and the drawdown. You need professional help in order to do that properly so that you'll never outlive your resources. Now, all the risk I just indicated about, or talked about, presents its own challenges, but you have to focus on the overall estate planning and objectives that can help with the strategies, and because that would have a substantial effect on your long-term financial situation.
Okay, and Freeman, our next topic deals with Social Security again. Mm-hmm. It's a big part of retirement.
It is.
And this is about the timing of it. Some people start their Social Security payments when they get 62, and they get more. They get more payments, smaller payments over more months.
Exactly.
And then some wait and get more money per month. Now, I believe you get more, or it works out better if you wait and get more.
It is better that you wait. Waiting makes a difference. The popular age is 62, but a lot of folks, they claim their Social Security, and they're still gainfully employed. And then they find out they get penalized because there is a cap or a ceiling on how much you can earn at the age of 62.
If you're getting Social Security.
Exactly. When you're receiving your Social Security check. So it's best to wait. Something else you can do, you can work longer at a higher income. All right. You've done your 35 years. That's how the Social Security determines how much is your benefit, the amount of the benefit you'll receive. But you can work longer and get a higher benefit. That's on the menu. Something too, where a married couple or couple has an advantage. There's survivor benefits. The higher earner, which I'm going to talk about if I get a chance in this segment, if that person claims early, the survivor benefit will be smaller for the spouse. So it's best to wait till your full retirement age now is 66 to 67 and get your full benefits.
Okay, and then Freeman, we're going to focus on timing Social Security with the IRA distributions.
Exactly.
Okay.
All right.
Now, I know it's a fact that retirees that claim Social Security before reaching full retirement age, sometimes they leave tax-deferred IRAs untouched until age 70 and a half when they have to take out their RMDs or required minimum distribution.
Exactly.
So what do you say about people who claim Social Security before age 66?
Well, I don't think it's a great idea to do that if you can afford not to. The thing is, you can boost your lifetime benefits. There's an 8% increase, and this comes annually between the ages of 62 and your full retirement 66. Okay. Now, let's take our Social Security at 62. And if we wait to age 70, that's a 70 to 75% increase in Social Security benefits. If I have enough time, I just want to give you a little analogy. 62, you get $1,800. This is actuarially put up. No, I put it this way: it's a fact that actuaries use these basic tables so that the distribution is sort of common to all people. 62, you get $1,800. 66, $2,400. You wait to age 70, $3,168.
That's
$16,000 more now per year. So therefore, life expectancy 86, 87, 15 years at $16,000 more. I'll round up, that's about a couple hundred, $200,000 more in Social Security benefits. Well, Carolyn, it seems like the clock is on the wall. And that means that our time is just about up. Before we end this segment, I just want to remind our viewers to be sure to request a copy of our Safe Money Kit, which is absolutely free. Just simply log on to our website at www.justaskfreeman.com and request the Safe Money Kit. Now, what it does, it contains valuable information that will help you clearly understand how to keep your retirement dollars safe from unnecessary losses. And remember, we're here for you. Also, don't forget to tune in to Skills to Pay the Bills each week right here on Channel 10. We'll see you next week for another segment of JustAskFreeman.com. And as always say, keep your money